Welcome to the Heat versus the World podcast. And now, stand up and make some noise for your host, Joel Jacob.
What's up, Heat Nation? Welcome back to another episode of the Heat versus the World podcast. As always, I'm your host, Joel Jacob, and you can follow me on Twitter at JoelKJacob_. Without further delay, let's meet today's correspondents. First, we got Anthony.
10 more to go, y'all.
We got Kevin.
What's good?
And then we got Kaylee making her big return.
Hi, guys.
And last but not least, one of the newest members of Heat vs. the World, Heat Muse.
What's up, everyone? Appreciate you guys letting me on the show. So just wanted to say that.
Our pleasure. So to begin today's episode, let's talk about this win for Miami as the Heat get their second win of their series against Philly, winning by 16. Leading the way for Miami, you got Bam Adebayo with 23 points, 9 rebounds, and 3 assists. Jimmy Butler with 22 points, 12 assists, and 6 rebounds. Victor Oladipo with 19 points, 3 triples, and 6 rebounds of his own. And Tyler Hero with 18 points, 3 triples, 7 rebounds, and 3 assists. When looking back at this game, what are some takeaways that y'all have for this win? Start us off, Anthony.
Well, you mentioned, all the Heat stats there. And of course, everybody played really well. We've been seeing that all playoffs. We've spent, countless time just talking about the defense of this team and the cohesion and the offense, the ball movement. Everything's been pretty perfect so far. And obviously they kept that up in yesterday's game. So what I want to focus on is Philadelphia, because we hear all their fans complaining about Joel Embiid being gone and how hard it is to win without your best player. Well, guess what? That's what Miami's been doing all year. So when I talk about Philly, I want to focus on what I'm calling BOP, which is Bums of Philly. That's what it stands for. The first BOP is DeAndre Jordan, who's terrible. He gave up 9 of 10 to Bam so far. Like, Bam had 10 attempts on DeAndre Jordan. He's made 9 of them. He's slower than Kelly Olynyk was here. He has fraudulent all defensive teams, and he's a minus 31 in 30 minutes this series. So he's bum number 1 for Philadelphia. The second bum is Doc Rivers, who is the most overrated coach of all time and continues playing DeAndre Jordan. For what reason, I honestly don't know. And then the third one, I just want to give a shout out to Danny Green, who shot 1 of 10 yesterday. And believe it or not, obviously, there was a period of time that man used to give some Heat fans some PTSD, but it's very clear how washed up he is now. He even missed a dunk, had James Harden mad at him. So that's kind of all I want to say. I don't know why I'm so salty after win. I'm very annoyed of that team and everything going on, but I'm chilling because we win. So it's all good.
Right. And you ain't got to do DeAndre Jordan like that. Like, sheesh. Like, you already got all the Twitter calling that man a bum, and you just out here exposing him like that. But Kevin, how about you?
Yeah, man, I thought it was just another complete team performance by the Heat. Hit some big time shots. I want to give a big shout out to Max Strus for this, knocking down his shots. Tyler Hero's been playing phenomenal. Obviously he didn't play that well in the first round versus Atlanta, but he's definitely bounced back and starting to get his swagger back. Of course, he just won 6th Man of the Year. So he's doing this thing. Jimmy Butler, again, I can't say enough about him. Like, even though he had a quiet 22 in this game, but the way that he was just playmaking and getting everybody their touches, he had that big time pass off the offensive rebound to Dwayne Dedman, that kick out to Oladipo, little things like that, just helping us win, man. And again, Oladipo, it feels like every time Depot steps on the floor, good things just automatically happen, man. His defense is still on point. Offensively, you can tell that he's getting back into his rhythm and he's finding himself, man. It's really beautiful to see. And I love, what Bam has been doing. He's been taking advantage of a mismatch. Anthony already mentioned it, but DeAndre Jordan is a weak link. Paul Reed ain't doing nothing. So you want Bam to get as much confidence and as much buckets as he possibly can. So I loved it. The defensive effort was there. I would like to see us try and slow down Tyrese Maxey a little bit more because that man is hooping and he's been hooping, but he's the good. There's no denying that. So you got to give him his credit because he damn near, single-handedly kept him in the game by himself. But aside from that, man, it was a well-executed game plan. PJ Tucker's been doing his thing defensively on James Harden. You could tell he's been taking that matchup personally. And again, it's just a complete team effort, man. So I'm liking what I've seen from the Heat, just everybody being unselfish and starring in their role.
Right. And what's on your mind, Kaylee?
A lot's on my mind, but I feel like overall the unfortunate thing with the Sixers is almost kind of like I always go back to the same note in my head that it's kind of like the Heat are not even playing Duncan Robinson, and it's kind of like you're getting like the Sixers are getting exasperated and fully exhausted with I think it was Josh who tweeted about like kind of degrading Gabe Vincent and Max and stuff like that, and it's kind of like yeah, like they're outplaying of like a actual starter team besides Embiid with the Sixers, and you guys are being exhausted, so it's kind of like and also just again thinking about how Duncan's like just sitting on the bench, just not playing, and then also having Victor Oladipo like really perform beautifully. And overall, I feel like the game was kind of like it just shows how much again depth is amazing on the Heat. And I think another note that I liked watching in last night's game as well is the really cool, fun shots like that they're taking. That it's like humongous fadeaways, full blown falling, the whole like hitting on the head with the pass from what's it called, Tyler. All that was really fun. It was turning into more fun basketball than kind of like anxiety ridden basketball, if that makes sense. But yeah, overall, like I just like the confident vibe, and as long as like keeps rolling, I'm gonna have a good time watching regardless, because I just like good basketball, you know.
Right. And like just a quick thing to bring up that I brought up in the last pod, the Heat have 9 undrafted players, guys. Like we're doing that, and I don't care if Joel Embiid is out. Like we didn't need a process to get those 9 undrafted players. Okay, we just simply got them off the street, and now they're just hooping for us. And that's really all it is to it. And we don't refer it to as a process or anything. And the Heat Muse, what's on your mind?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I understand that Embiid, if I heard he's not coming back game 3, so that's a tough, blow right there. But I understand he's like an MVP player, and he was my MVP. I'll be honest with you, but the bench is probably the biggest, difference here. You got Thibault. I noticed that Spo started using a lot of zone last game, and he started using zone when Thibault was in the game. And that's because Thibault, he reminds me of like an Andre Robertson, if you guys remember who he was. He was, a great defender, but he had absolutely nothing on the offensive end. And that's who Thibault really reminds me of. And every time they go on zone, they leave Thibault open in the corner. I think when he shot like 3 attempts for the first 2 games, he looked scared to shoot a ball. I mean, you're a basketball player, my boy. But I started seeing Spo, use that zone a lot more. And I remember Doc Rivers started using that zone in the first game. But I feel like he noticed that, Spo, mastermind, he found out how to punch right through that zone. He just said, we can't use that zone no more. He's going to stick to man-to-man. So I feel like the bench right now is probably the biggest difference maker. Even if Embiid comes, what can Embiid do to help that bench out? They can't shoot. They're not really good at defending. I mean, Paul Reed comes in, gets a quick 3 fouls. George Niang fouled out in 10 minutes. That's ridiculous. So that's probably my biggest thing in this series, even if Embiid does come back, if he can, which I do wish he does come back, just so we could shut the Philly fans up, because they do talk a lot of smack and they just be talking out their butt. So I don't know. I just see Embiid can't really do nothing with that bench. Nothing he could really do other than make them more wide open, and they're not hitting their shots anyways. They are open. So that's probably my biggest take on the first 2 games.
Right. And like, a good point that people were bringing up is that the Heat got Tyler Hero and the 2-time All-Star Victor Oladipo coming off the bench. Now, I just want to say, because we are going to give Victor some praise in this pod, but I just got to say, though, like some of y'all out there was dissing my guy Victor, talking about, he only averaging 5 points, and this is the guy that Heat fans were hyping him up to be. Like, y'all really be trying, because the dude was coming back from a major injury, and just because he wasn't putting Wilt Chamberlain numbers in his first 2 or 3 games, y'all gave up on him like that. I'm just saying, because, and I get that Klay Thompson obviously, it's not like Victor Oladipo, like those are 2 completely different players. But, when Klay Thompson came back, everyone was patient with the guy. Now I know there's some disrespect going towards him because he is struggling in this Grizzlies series a bit. But still, like, a lot of people were patient with my guy. On the other hand, you got a dude like Vic, who had 19 points last night, who was coming off of not 1, but 2 major injuries. Like, y'all got to show some respect to my guy. Okay, and honestly, I'm just happy for him because he's getting important minutes right now, and he's 2 wins away from going to his first conference finals ever. And not only to add on to that, but then you got guys like Gabe Vincent and Max Struess who've also been hooping, two guys that were also undrafted. It's just such a great thing to see, and it just shows that the Heat culture is real. Like, people want to make fun of it, especially when Heat fans bring it up on social media, but it's a real thing. And y'all see that. Y'all have seen it in the regular season, but you choose to ignore it. And when we post that out in a postseason, no one still wants to acknowledge it. But it is what it is. Everyone's going to get their fair dose of the Heat culture very soon. Anyways, that's all I got to say about the game. And next up, it's a great thing that I brought up Victor and all that, because the way how his game has improved since making his playoff debut in game 4 of round 1 was just amazing. Like, okay, he didn't have the best performance, but he had an impact on the floor. He had a high plus minus and everything, and he was playing amazing defense. And we're continuing to see him blossom into the guy that he once was when he was in Indiana. So when thinking about it, like, what impresses you guys the most when looking back at Victor's playoff performance so far? You're up first, Kevin.
Yeah, man. I talked about it like probably a month ago, like going into the playoffs. Like the thing that Victor does better than anybody on this roster is he's able to get to the rack consistently off the dribble. Like I mentioned, Bam, he's gonna try and bully his way there. Jimmy, same thing. Tyler, he's not that strong yet. We all know he can be loose with his handle. His handle needs to get better, so he doesn't really have that ability right now. That's why he settles for a lot of jumpers. But Vic can get to the rim, man, and he's a hell of a passer. And again, he's still a hell of a defensive player too. So like, when you put all that together, it's like he's the perfect fit for this team. You know what I'm saying? And like, I know we're gonna get to Gabe Vincent, but just like, he just does everything that you want out of your point guard or your backup point guard, whatever you want to call him as. You know what I'm saying? And really, like right now, he's playing backup shooting guard, I guess. But like, again, just that ability to consistently get to the rim, it keeps the defense on their heels, and it keeps the defense guessing, and it keeps the defense rotating. And literally, just off that, it literally helps everyone else get more room on the court to get shots. And so that's why I've always loved Vic. I always knew that he would be fine. And Joel, you brought up Klay Thompson. Like I kind of compare it to like DeMarcus Cousins, because like to me, a lot of people kind of counted out both these guys, but for me, I always believed in them because skill outweighs everything. Even though they did have two major injuries, science and medical is different nowadays. It's way more advanced, and it's easier, to heal up. And when you look at those two guys, they're super skilled. You know what I'm saying? DeMarcus Cousins played really well, even though, they lost in 5 games. He played really well in that series versus the Warriors. And Vic is doing the same thing in these playoffs. And that's why I always have faith in him, just because he's a grinder and he works hard. I've been watching him since he was at Indiana, all the way up through his NBA career, through, Orlando, OKC, Indiana. Like, he's just that good, man. And it really that simple. Like, when you have a shot creator like that, a playmaker like that, and a defensive player all in one, it's the ultimate luxury. And that's why I'm glad that he kept him and had faith in him and didn't give up on him. And now it's paying off in dividends. So shout out to Vic for, staying with it and not giving up when he easily could have.
Right. And, I'm just rooting for the guy to succeed. Like, whenever he has the ball, I just want him to score. Like, when he passes it, like, I understand why he would, but at the same time, it's like, man, I want you to take that shot, get some more buckets out there. But, you gotta respect Vic for also being a facilitator as well. And like, Kaylee, how about you?
I think it's funny how much like people like the whole fan base has been talking about like the return of Victor Oladipo, like he's gonna return like in the playoffs, it's gonna be amazing. And I feel like he's doing just that. He's doing what everyone has like predicted he would provide for the Heat, especially at this current state with having like Kyle out and like having to like rotate between different players. He's filling the role that I feel like everyone expected him to like fulfill, and also kind of in a way also kind of like going ahead of the expectations as well sometimes, because even then, like, again, it was a crazy injury. He had a really, really long process of really like easing into going back into fully playing. And I feel like I feel more than I feel like I could have asked. He's doing amazing. And even though, yeah, I feel like it'd be kind of fun to see him do like some more cool shots. Like, I feel like once he gets a little bit more confident, like say with Tyler had a little bit of a hiccup of like finding his footing again in each series. And I feel like now like he's finding his footing. And once he finds it, it'll be like golden,
Right. And let's see, Heat Muse.
Yeah, what I want to say about Vic is, I think Kevin, hit it spot on about the whole get into the paint. I'm pretty sure he leads the Heat in the most paint touches and drives, other than Bam, obviously. But Bam is the center, so he's obviously in the post all the time. But another thing I really want to see with Vic, for the next step, I understand that he just came in. He's still getting his feet wet. Um, Another thing I would like to see is him and Jimmy work more together, because I've seen something on Twitter. I wish I could find it, but I can't find it. It's the plus and minus of him and Jimmy on the court together is like a negative 12.5. And I understand why it would be, because both those players need their hands. Oh, and I seen another one with him and Hero. It's like a negative 30 something. And I understand, because like I said, they both need their balls in their hand. So I know Spo goes there, and Jimmy's in, Vic is out, Vic is in, Jimmy's out. But I just like to see them work more together on the court together. But other than that, I mean, Vic's been doing everything. His burst it's not gone. He's still blowing by all the defenders. His defense is still probably one of the best on the team. James Harden can't even get by him. And when he does get by him, it's some some phantom foul. A foul I don't even see. I don't know how these refs are calling it like that, but it is what it is. But yeah, Vic. I mean, his spot up jumper is on point as well. He went 3 for 4 last game, 2 from the corner, 1 from the wing. So yeah, Vic's doing everything. He's getting his feet wet. He's getting more comfortable with the system. At Miami, that system's very hard to get comfortable with, because Spo is more of you do your role, and that's your role. And some players kind of have to adjust to being that type of player, because Vic was an all-star in Indiana. He had the ball in his hands a lot. His usage percentage was really up there. And the same even in OKC, when Russell Westbrook was out, Vic would run that second unit, and there wasn't no Tyler Hero on that floor. And it was Andre Robertson, someone that can't do anything on offense. And it was Mike Muscala, someone that can't do anything, So it would be just Vic with the ball in his hands. So I just feel like he just needs to get his feet a little wet, but he has really impressed me. I think he's doing better than what I expected. I did not expect this from Victor. I'm not saying I didn't think he was going to be bad or anything, but I just didn't think he would come out doing 19-point games, 40-point games, 23-point games like that. So shout out Victor. And it was on his birthday too, so happy birthday to Victor. If he's listening, I hope he's listening. But happy birthday, Victor. You did your thing on your birthday, so shout out him.
Right. And, I just want to bring up one thing real quick before we hand the mic to Anthony. One thing that touches me a lot is the fact that this wasn't an easy road for Victor when you look at the recovery and everything, because when it seemed clear that he wasn't going to return until March, I was a little worried about that, because it's like so late in the season. The playoffs are about a month away. Like, would he be able to adapt to a team that's still kind of new to him? Because, before that injury, he only played 4 games. And, it wasn't easy at first, because as we all know, he was eventually taken out of the rotation. And, it's tough, because you look at Victor's journey and everything. So to see him go out and, finally get playoff minutes, have that game 5 against Atlanta, and then have a great game last night against Philly, it's just continuing to be inspiring. And then that moment with him and D Wade, like, you just love to see stuff like that. And like, Anthony, like, how about you?
Well, first, I just want to shout out Heat Muse for already referencing Andre Robertson twice. That's a name I forgot about. He definitely had no offense except that very rare occasional 3, which I felt like he always hit at least 1 against the Heat. That always used to annoy me whenever him or Josh Smith hit a 3. But anyways, Heat Muse also brought up a good point about the plus minus with both Jimmy and Depot on the court together. That's something that doesn't necessarily surprise me, because that kind of chemistry is something I think they need to continue to work on. We saw in game 1 versus Philadelphia, there was several possessions that led with the Jimmy drive and kick out to Depot for 3. Which, if it's anybody else, obviously that's a great look, but you'd rather see Depot attacking the basket like Kevin was saying. But in game 1, he didn't hit them. He was 0 for 5. But in game 2, he shot great. He was 3 or 4 from 3. So if that's something that he can, continue doing relatively decent, then that'll be awesome as a spot-up shooter, especially since some people would argue, well, you'd rather Duncan get those shots. Well, 1, Duncan really hasn't been hitting those shots this playoffs other than game 1 versus Atlanta. And 2, even if Depot's not hitting shots, you're always getting that defense that he brings to the table. And that helps hide, Tyler, who's a subpar defender. Because even when guys are blowing past Tyler, you always have someone else that is quick enough to rotate and pick up ball. This defense has been amazing. I'm really curious to see how Spoelstra plays the whole Lowry thing when Lowry comes back. Caleb Martin's only been getting around 15 minutes a game. I'm assuming most of those are going to diminish, but that still obviously doesn't make up enough points for Lowry. So I'm curious to see where Depot's minutes goes when we get fully healthy again. But yeah, he's played great. Can't ask for anything more.
Right. That's a good point you brought up, once Kyle comes back. And something that I've said in multiple pods in the past is that these type of situations are a great situation to be in if you're the Heat, having all these weapons on one team. Because when you have a coach that knows so much about the game, like Eric Spoelstra, he's like one of the best coaches you could ask for. So when you give him all these weapons, he's gonna come up with all types of ways to utilize them and to make the other team suffer. So overall, even when Kyle comes back, we don't know exactly how the rotation will look like, who will get what minutes, but it's going to be something fun to see because let's see, I think he said something about not being like a chess master or whatever, but come on now, when you see this man work in a basketball game and you see him putting certain lineups out there, like this dude is just an absolute mastermind. And I just can't wait to see him get to work once Kyle comes back too, once we get that full healthy squad, but while we can rave about Victor all day, it's time to move on to another player that deserves some praise as well. And that guy is Gabe Vincent, because as the records show this year, he's actually been the random 76ers killer for Miami. And if y'all don't believe me, the Heat are currently 4-2 against Philly this season, if you count the regular season and playoffs. And Gabe, he played in all 4 of those wins, and he sat out those 2 losses we got. And it should also be noted that even though Miami has missed Kyle Lowry, the Heat has not lost the game with Gabe Vincent being the starter. So with all this being said, how pleased have you guys been with Gabe Vincent stepping up? Give us your thoughts, Muse.
Gabe has been absolutely huge. He's not Kyle Lowry, so I can't really, compare him to Kyle Lowry, but he's doing a lot of things that Kyle Lowry would do. He's slowing down the offense. He's hitting timely shots. I think last game he had a couple big threes when the momentum was shifting to the Sixers. He's hitting his mid-range jumpers. He has that pick and roll impact with Bam, setting up lobs and stuff. I mean, his defense is really good. I didn't think before the season even started, I didn't think his defense was as good as it would be right now. He reminds me kind of like a Patrick Beverly. Not really Patrick Beverly because he's obviously better than Patrick Beverly, but like his defense is annoying. Guards, he probably gets under his skin. He's all up on you from the full court, all the way down to the shot clock is done. I'm sorry, but yeah, no, Gabe has been huge. He also gets to the paint. It's kind of underrated how good he could get into the paint. But like Gabe. Shout out Gabe, because honestly, before the season, I didn't think he was going to be that big of a role player for us. I just thought he was still a little immature in his game, because I remember when he was in Santa Barbara, he was just a straight up shooting guard. Just take up shots. He didn't have none of that passing in him. But now Gabe is like averaging 4 assists, which is good for a backup point guard. Like we said, he's not Kyle Lowry. He's not a veteran. He doesn't know really the defensive schemes yet, but he's doing his thing out there. And I, shout out Gabe, because I really appreciate what he's doing for this Miami Heat team.
Right. And, a big shout out to Kyle Lowry, too, because you can make an argument that this is all because of that Kyle Lowry effect, the helping develop guys like Gabe, guys like Tyler into being those elite playmakers that he is. So major shout out to him. And Kevin, what's on your mind?
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to the whole team, actually, because I feel like they've given Gabe a lot of confidence and stayed the course with him. Because, again, I always go back to last year, man. Like, he was just struggling with his shot. He did everything else well, but his shot was just not where we needed it to be. But, it's come full circle. He's put in a lot of work. He stayed the course, being in and out the lineups, playing sometimes, not playing sometimes. And just to see him on this stage where he's actually getting real, playoff experience and actually just looking like a comfortable starting point guard, it's actually crazy because I never would have expected it. You know, it's really unbelievable. It's a testament to how the Heat developed their players, and he's been the perfect point guard to just step in this situation. Like, I don't think you could ask for a better, player. Like, obviously, like, it's better players than Gabe Vincent out there, but like, just the fact that he limits his turnovers, he's kind of like, a leader on the floor. He gets everybody their shots in the right spots. He's super unselfish. He only looks for a shot when he knows he absolutely has to look for a shot. He never forces anything. He hustles his butt off. He's picking up 94 feet. Like, he literally is the perfect guard for this situation, man. I've loved and enjoyed every second of it. He's put his, blood, sweat, and tears out there. And I'm happy for him, man. Really, I really am. Because, again, like, he just stayed the course. And that's all you really have to do, man. You just got to stay the course. And Gabe has definitely done that. And he's been a huge X factor for us. A lot of people don't really give him his credit on God. We have this topic too, give him his flowers and his credit because he deserves it, man. And he's been really good, man. So I'm happy for him. And he's just been playing the right way, man. He's what Eric Spoelstra wants out of a point guard. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's just the best thing in the best case scenario for the Heat, man. So shout out to Gabe Vincent, man, because he's been holding it down in the absence of Kyle Lowry.
I agree, and another thing is he's one of those 9 undrafted players. So, just a huge shout out to that Heat development system because they really know what they're doing. And Anthony, how about you?
Well, I've said this a bunch of times already. When the offseason comes, I already said I'm going to have to make a Gabe Vincent apology video and post it on my YouTube because after last year, I really had a lot of disdain for the man. I'll just leave it at that. I said he was basically someone who tried a lot of hard, or he's someone who tried very hard and really had no other skill besides that. But the improvement from last year to this year has just been otherworldly. Kevin already mentioned the shooting, which I was going to bring up. Heat Muse mentioned the pick and roll play. I think the second play of game 1 was a lob to Bam that he threw down. So the playmaking has been super improved. I mean, everything's been pretty much covered as far as me. I just want to say, in my opinion, he's been the 4th most important player this playoffs for the Heat. I'd probably go Jimmy, Bam, PJ, and then I'd go Gabe Vincent. He's been solid enough on the offensive end and just being the primary defender with PJ on the other team's superstars. You can't understate enough how important he's been.
Right. And Kaylee, how about you?
I agree with what everyone's saying. It's pretty valid, like the development, the fact that he's able to feel this comfortable as a starter now for Lowry is great to see. Like, it also makes like a really cool different dynamic to see. And I agree with whoever said the slow pacing of the offense. I'm always obsessed with that whenever they actually like pace it and like calm down a little bit, because obviously it's exciting to do like a super fast play, but I really enjoy the way he like really learned how to like pace a play and really like calculate really cool different passes and stuff like that. Like, it's great to see. It's great to see someone grow, and it's obviously, I'm sure he's going to become like a favorite if he keeps doing this, like in this kind of caliber of skill, So yeah, definitely giving Gabe all of the flowers.
Right. And honestly, I want to give a big shout out because I've already said so much about Gabe, but I also want to give a big shout out because, we talking about the pace and everything. Like, shout out to Dwayne Dedman because that man really did a whole heat check in the middle of the game, which was funny to see. Like, this dude got a huge defensive stop on one end, and then this dude then raced to the other side of the court and shot a pull-up 3. Like, my guy was feeling it, and it was just something so funny to look back at. And it also led to Rick Ross getting his first NBA rebound. So, that's something good to see from that. We're still developing people because now we got Rick Ross who could be a backup center for us. So we can add on to that center rotation. And then let's see, like, we've talked so much about that now it's time to talk about the Heat Muse stat of the game, which is presented by someone that's sitting in this Zoom meeting /podcast right now. And before we get into it, make sure to follow Heat Muse on Twitter for Old Miami Heat stats. His handle is Heat MUSE. Anyways, the Miami Heat have allowed teams to shoot 29% from the 3-point line, which is the lowest percent allowed by any team in the playoffs right now. With all that being said, what do you guys make of this stat? Give us your thoughts, Kevin.
Yeah, man, I just think, matchup-wise, and let's be honest, like, the way the league is now, like, you got to give Steph Curry a lot of credit. Like, the 3-point line is, like, one of the most valuable, aspects of the game right now. And, the teams that we've played between Atlanta and Philly so far, like, they rely on the three-point shot heavily. You know what I'm saying? Trae Young, he loves to shoot threes. And when he passed the ball, he's trying to get a quick assist off three-point shooting. So it's just been a testament to Miami's defense just really locking in, executing their game plan flawlessly and doing what they have to do. And the same thing for Philly, you know what I'm saying? Like, obviously, not having Embiid, you know, even with Embiid, like, they still love to shoot threes. Embiid, he shoots a couple threes a game, if I'm not mistaken. But, like, Tobias likes to shoot threes. Obviously, Danny Green, you know, and other guys, Tyrese Maxey, James Harden, you know, he going to settle. So, like, it's just been fun to watch, man. I love it. I love that, you know, they're embracing the challenge and they're locking in on defense and they're honing in. And that's a big part of the game, man, because, like, that's really what the playoffs comes down to. You know what I'm saying? Everybody loves to shoot threes nowadays, and the Heat have done a great job of just running teams off that three-point line and making them get hard-earned and contested baskets. And so, again, man, like, we cannot not give enough praise to this Heat defense because they've really been locking in and making teams take tough shots, and that's really what it comes down to. And that's why that stat is honestly not surprising. Like, I kind of expected this going into the season that they were going to be, you know, one of the best defensive teams in the league, and they've been showcasing it all season long. So it's actually a testament to, you know, everybody's, you know, emphasis on defense and just not wanting to get scored on and taking, you know, pride in playing defense. So shout out to the Heat for locking in, man.
Exactly. And what's on your mind, Anthony?
Well, not to slander Kelly Olynyk and his speed again for the second time this podcast, but I remember being so frustrated in the 2020 playoffs and the finals. The Heat, you know, they had a similar defensive scheme. Obviously, you still had a relatively similar roster, and Spo was there, of course. And they had a similar style of switch everything type defense. And the thing that really frustrated me was all the threes that Kelly Olynyk gave up to Markieff Morris wide open in the corner because he was just too slow to contest, and we got killed from the three-point line. We actually gave up some of the most threes in the league during that playoff run. But now that you have actually 5 guys on the court that are quick and athletic and smart enough to rotate on defense, that's when you get this kind of lethal, godly all-time defense that we're seeing from this team. And it just the depth at defense, I've never seen anything like that. You know, I'd consider myself a basketball historian somewhat, just going back and looking at everything. I've never seen a team that's this deep. You have a guy like let's say PJ Tucker go out, you have Caleb Martin come in. He's locking down everyone too. Victor Oladipo comes in. I mean, we all seen that play in the first series when Trae Young got 3 picks and he went from PJ to Jimmy to Bam. It just keeps getting worse and worse. So when you have legitimately pretty much every single guy that they throw out there can play defense, really, other than Tyler at this point, because obviously Duncan's not playing much no more, and that's probably because of the defense. But the kind of improvements you had from Strus mid-season to improve as a defender, now almost everybody can play defense, and that's when you get these kind of numbers. And that's important because when this team goes on scoring droughts, the other team is not going to go on a run because they're not scoring either. So that's just huge, and a lot of credit to Spoelstra and just the organization of the team as a whole.
Right. And Kaylee, you?
I agree with everyone saying. Like, unfortunately, I don't really look at stats during the playoffs because I really just want to like enjoy watching, if that makes sense, and not really focus on the numbers. But like watching like the defense, watching the offense, and how the dynamic has changed between the Hawks and with the Sixers, you can definitely tell like with the Sixers, like they have to try like hard and then like 3 times that hard to try to even like get close to any sort of clean, uncontested shot. Like every shot is heavily contested. They're like barricaded with different players, like going at them every 2 seconds. They're like too quick and stuff like that. So it's like, it's really interesting to see not only the dynamic between the two teams when it comes to these like really humongous stat differences, but how much it debilitates the other team. And for only them to like just kind of like casually like, you know, have an amazing game, and then they're like, oh, like they scored like almost 30 points and they were just kind of vibing. It's like, it's a really cool thing to see, especially in the playoffs.
Right. And I always respect the fact that you don't really focus on statistics. I know a certain guy who wanted Kevin Love to win 6th Man of the Year instead of Tyler Hero, the Mr. Vortmaster 365 from Cleveland or wherever he's from. Yeah, I'm talking about you, John Hollinger. I know you probably wasn't pleased with what KD had to say. But at the end of the day, not everything revolves around stats, like the way how you look at it. So, you know, I'm glad that you brought that up, Kaylee, because at the end of the day, you know, you just simply want to watch the game and see who's got that dog in them. And that's this Heat team. So, we got that. And the guy who's responsible for the Heat Muse stat of the game, Heat Muse, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I just want to say shout out to Max Strus as well, because I feel like a big part of that low percentage from the 3-point line is mostly on Max Strus. Trae Young tried to do it. James Harden is trying to do it. They're trying to get isolations on Max Strus to hit that step back three, to hit that side three, to even get to the paint. And I'm gonna tell you something right now. I didn't think Max Strus had it in him. I didn't think he had it in him. He is holding down his own. He looks bigger out there. He's not, for example, when Duncan was on the court. He's weak. He's weak. I mean, he's taller, but he's weaker than Max Strus. So he was getting these calls. I feel like the calls were kind of BS, but that's not my job as a ref. But Max Strus, he's going there, he's ripping the ball. I remember there was a play, James Harden, he called a screen from Bam to Max Strus. I'm pretty sure it was Bam, but it was from Bam to Max Strus, and then he tried to hit a step back, and it was just break. It was short, and I feel like the reason why we're holding teams to 29%, which is incredible, knowing this age of the NBA, everyone's shooting threes at least from 32 plus. I just feel like it's Max Strus. And there's another thing I seen. It was like, James Harden, the 76ers, the whole team as a group, not just James Harden, the whole 76ers as a group, they're shooting. I think they shot versus PJ and Bam 30 shots combined. And with Max Strus, they shot 38 shots, and only 12 of those went in. So it's just, it's really Max Strus helping that starting five, not have a weak. He is the weakest defender, but he's not no slouch now. So yeah, shout out Max Strus for that, because he brings the offense and now he's bringing the defense, and I feel like that starting five is really nice. So yeah.
Right. And it just goes to show, how everyone's playing a great part in Miami's success. It's not just one person stepping up always, and that's the thing for the Heat, is that we don't have like one main superstar. We have anyone on this team that can go off at any point during the series, during any game. In the Atlanta series, we saw that game 1 from Duncan, and then Oladipo had his game in game 5. Like, you never know who's going to have the masterpiece for Miami next. Like, if Miami wins game 3, we'll see who does end up having that big game. Maybe it will be Strus. Maybe it will be Gabe. We don't know. Or, maybe we'll see Tyler, Bam, Jimmy. We'll find out. Or if Kyle comes back and, I want him to be 100%. But if he does end up coming back, maybe he'll have the big game. Anyone on this team is capable for those type of moments. But, that's basically all there is to that. And it's a great thing that we move on to game 3 now, because there's so much for the Heat coming into this game, because as we know, the Heat are up 2-0 to Philly. So this is basically an elimination game for Philly, since no team has come back from a 3-0 deficit, meaning that if they do end up losing this upcoming game, they are out. So with the series shifting to Philadelphia, what's everyone's expectations for this third game? Kick us off, Kaylee.
I think it's going to be really interesting, because it might be a similar repeat for the Philly game that was against the Raptors in round 1, of them being like booed off their own court, and just kind of like a shameful like hanging of heads, if that makes sense, of just kind of like, damn, like we really like messed up here kind of mentality, because it's not only like embarrassing to just like be at a loss and also like not have the energy, but also have your fans like not support you 100%. It's probably going to suck. So I think it's going to be a repeat of that, because I know for sure, like with the way things are going, I don't think there's really going to be a significant change, especially without Embiid. And I'm also just really interested to see if we hear like Heat chants in that arena, because I know that it's going to be like probably semi-rare, but I'm actually kind of curious if it'll be loud or not. So I'm excited to hear that.
That's a great point you brought up. Like, if I hear "Let's Go Heat" chants and the Heat are like blowing out Philly, that will literally make my day, because honestly, for all that smack they talked once Jimmy signed with Miami a couple years back, it would just be so fulfilling to watch a game that will basically seal the deal, for the season of Philly. Like, what else could you ask for? That would literally be the cherry on top. So I pray to God that if we do end up winning this game, that we hear those "Let's Go Heat" chants. I just want it so bad right now, and it's thanks to you, Kaylee. Like, you should not put that in my mind, because now I'm like thinking about it, and I'm literally praying for it now. Once this pod ends, let's see. Anthony, how about you?
You really gonna ask me for my game 3 preview, Joel? Come on, man. We already know Joel Embiid is still out, but even if he comes back, there's only one Joel I respect in this series, and his name is Joel Jacob. We know that we know that team is just not on the same level as us. We dominated them in the second half of game 1, dominated them in the second half of game 2. And I actually have Doc Rivers' phone number. I spoke with him after game 2 and asked, how they got dominated again. And this is actually what he had to say. And he's going to say the same thing after game 3 when we leave him hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray, run amok, and whatever else Stephen A. Smith said. And then he's probably going to get fired and go to the Lakers and then get fired in like another 2 years. So
please go to LA. Doc, if you're listening to this, please go to LA if you end up getting fired. I would really love that. Let's see. Heat Muse, you?
Hey, I just you guys took it out my mouth, because actually I wanted to talk about that real quick, about the whole attendance thing, because I feel like Philly, we're gonna start hearing "Let's Go Heat" chants, and Philly, look, they got nothing to talk about. So what they're gonna talk about? They're gonna talk about the fan attendance, how the first quarter it looks like no one's in the games, but they don't know. They don't know how the arena is set up. They don't know about this Miami traffic. They don't know that mostly South Florida is just a bunch of Hispanics, Blacks, Caribbeans, and they don't know that we like to be fashionably late. We just like to be late. We like to go to stuff late because we think we're the prince. And I don't know what it is. It's in every type of anyways, it's in every type of family like that. So I just really want us to beat them up. My prediction is it's gonna be the same thing that's happened game 1, game 2. They're gonna look good the first half, especially at home. They might look a little better, and then the second half we're gonna lock up. We're gonna suppose Udonis Haslem is gonna yell at them. He's gonna start throwing chairs. He's gonna start doing what he does. We're gonna lock up. We're gonna tighten up, and then we're gonna blow them out. We're gonna start hearing "Let's Go Heat" chants, and I really want to see what the Philly media has to say when they start hearing "Let's Go Heat" in Philadelphia. And that's my take, because that's really been pissing me off.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Like, we got top 5 attendance. Like, literally put some respect on Heat fans' names. Like, honestly, like, is the series that bad for you guys that you need to bring up attendance? Like, you couldn't find anything worse to bring up. Like, literally anything. And then you got fans talking about, oh, you know what? They got Strus and Vincent starting for them. Like, you know what? Y'all are here insulting our players. Well, guess what? Those same players that didn't get drafted, that we didn't tank for 5 years for or whatever, those players are whooping y'all right now. So before you guys come after our guys and talk about our attendance, focus on getting y'all act together, because right now y'all ain't looking too good. And especially the fact that you got not only the Sixers fans that have been hating on Miami since day 1, but you also got the fact that you got the clowns out here talking about James Harden this, James Harden that. Oh, he's better than Dwayne Wade. Well, listen, we ain't never believed that. But one thing I will say is that if this guy was allegedly better than D Wade, then where has he been this series? Because he's out here relying on Tyrese friggin' Maxey to carry him to the promised land. And that ain't going to work. A guy that's supposed to be better than D Wade is supposed to pull up and do his thing, but we ain't seen that. Instead, he's out here getting clamped by Max Strus. Okay, where is he? Because I ain't seen him. I just seen some guy who looked like him wearing his jersey on that court. So I want to know, Philly fans.
That's Brick Ross. That's Brick Ross out there.
Yeah, we got 2 Rick Rosses out there. That must have been, you know what, James Harden and Rick Ross, I got a theory. They must have switched places, because we saw Rick Ross was at the game. That probably must have been James Harden. That's probably why he was so happy when he got the ball, got the rebound, because he knows as long as those goons from Miami is out there and doing their thing, he ain't gonna get no boards or any of that. So that's all I got to say about that. I'm gonna keep the rant for when this series does come to an end. And let's see, Kevin, like, what's on your mind, bro?
Yeah, so for game 3, I think we're gonna need a Jimmy Butler game. Honestly, because like for us to advance in each round, we're gonna need one like major Jimmy Butler performance. And obviously we got that in game 1 versus Atlanta, where he had 45. And I think in this game, like on the road, like you're not going to have home court advantage, obviously. You know, you're not going to get that friendly bounce. And so, like, sometimes, like, your shooters, even though we do have shooters, no doubt about that. I'm not questioning our ability to shoot the ball. But sometimes, you know, we go in these scoring droughts, and we're going to need Jimmy to pick it up. And especially because this is his former team, you know, where he used to play at first season. We need him to go off. And I do think his knee has kind of been slowing him down. Like, I honestly don't think Jimmy Butler is 100%. But if he can just give us one game where he goes off for, like, 30 or close to that, I think this would be the perfect opportunity to do so, because if you go up 3-0, I think you shoot all the confidence out of Philadelphia. You know what I'm saying? So I'm hoping that's the case for game 3. And I honestly think that's going to be the case. I think Jimmy's going to step up and do what he has to do. And I think he's going to take us to the promised land in this game 3 and, you know, again, shoot all the confidence out of Philly. So I'm hoping that's the case. They're definitely going to come out, play confident. They're more than likely going to come out and go on the first scoring run of the game. You know, that happens when teams are at home. They play with a different energy and a different juice and a different bounce to their step. So hoping we can just, you know, outlast them, you know, and just be the better team, because we clearly are, especially without Embiid. I think we're the better team regardless with or without Embiid, but especially without him, you know, you got to make them pay for that. So we need a vintage Jimmy Butler performance. I think this would be the perfect opportunity to do so. That's exactly what I'm expecting in game 3.
Right. You know, and honestly, one more thing, and I know, Anthony, you want to add, but before I pass the mic to you, I just got to say, Philly fans, feel free to boo whoever on the court, because I know there's this public enemy thing where you boo one specific player for the team. Boo everyone, honestly, because you know what? We don't know which player on this team is going to take off, and I love it. Like, if y'all want to boo Max Strus, Gabe Vincent, or the main guys like Jimmy, Bam, Tyler, like, go ahead and do it. Boo the whole team if you want. Whenever they pass the ball, you just hear boos. Go ahead and do it, because it's going to make tomorrow night even more satisfying if we do get this W. And Anthony, what about you? What you want to add?
Real quick, Joel, I just want to say I love your rant, but don't disrespect Rick Ross. He's not as fat as James Harden, okay?
My God. Man, like, I mean, I don't know. I don't think that conspiracy theory might not be too off. You feel me? So it's just something to think about. But anyways, we talked so much on today's episode that before we close it out, make sure to check out our Twitter and Instagram page at HVTW Podcast, while checking out our website at hvtwpodcast.wordpress.com. That way you still have access to 24/7 Miami Heat content, even when we're not recording a new episode. Also, we hope you guys loved today's episode, because we'll be recording a new pod after every playoff victory for the Heat, meaning that if God is willing, we'll have at least 10 more episodes to record before we officially close out season 2 of Heat versus the World. And with that all being said, thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Heat versus the World podcast, and we'll see you guys soon with another episode. Hit my music, because we out.
Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time with a brand new episode of the Heat versus the World podcast.